Hi friends, welcome back. So in this video, I will be discussing about user acceptance testing mistakes you should not do while doing this UAT testing. This is very important video where I am going to talk about 10 mistakes normally we do in our day-to-day activity in UAT. If we avoid those mistakes, definitely we can do a better job in user acceptance testing. So we'll go by one. The first one is unclear requirements and acceptance criteria. If we have a unclear requirement and a proper acceptance criteria is not there, definitely UAT will fail. What could be the impact is it leads to confusion among users about what needs to be tested, resulting in incomplete or inaccurate feedback. That is a problem if you do not have a proper requirements and acceptance criteria. So this mistake we should overcome in order to be succeed in UAT. And the next one is lack of user involvement, especially user acceptance testing where user should involve on day-to-day basis. Here what is happening here, not involving actual end users is the biggest problem or stakeholders in the testing process. That is a mistake. In UAT, this mistake should not happen. You should have real end user and active participation of stakeholders. If you have this mistake, then this is the impact will happen. What happens? The results in the feedback that may not be accurately reflect the real world use of the application, potentially missing critical usability issues. Because we are not involved user regularly or with a lack of user involvement, this would be the impact due to it. So you should always avoid this mistake. And the next one is inadequate test planning. So if you have an inadequate test planning for UAT testing activities, including having a right test scenarios, schedules or resources, then that leads to causing of delays, disorganization, incomplete testing coverage, leads to overlooking of issues. Next one is ignoring real world scenarios while doing UAT. If we do this mistake, because whatever we test is we are doing in a controlled environment, if we do not considering the real world usage scenarios or real world condition, then that is not a UAT. UAT is we are going to deal with the real world scenarios. Then what would be the impact if we do this mistake? The impact would be we are going to miss huge defects that happens in the real world conditions such as high user loads or specific user workflows. The next one is inconsistent test data. So here the mistake we are trying to do here is using a test data that does not reflect the real world data or user inputs. Now impact of this inconsistent test data is the results from the test scenarios that do not accurately mimic the actual usage of the application are potentially missing the issues related to data handling. And the next one is failure to provide adequate training for end user. What happens if you do not provide a sufficient training or documentation for the user who are going to participate in UAT? The impact would be, again, this is going to lead confusion for the end user who are going to test the application, and ineffective testing will happen because they do not have sufficient information to test the application, and this is also going to lead missing of potentially defects due to the user are not being trained or they do not know the exact usage of the application properly. The next one is neglecting the feedback management. If we do this mistake where if we are not going to systematically capturing or tracking the feedback from the UAT participant, what would be the impact here? The impact would be results in unresolved issues and missed opportunity for improvement based on the user inputs. And the next one is overlooking the non-functional testing. If you are going to overlook non-functional testing as part of UAT, that leads to problems such as performance, security, or usability issues. The impact again here is the user experience or system performance is not up to the mark if you are going to overlook the non-functional testing aspects. And the next one is inadequate issues resolution process. If we do this mistake of not having the right issue resolution processes, that may lead to unresolved defects because there is no proper resolution mechanism, or delays in the project release, or even that leads to dissatisfaction among the user. The next one is the mistake we normally do is rushing the UAT processes, because UAT process is very crucial. If we plan to rush here, that leads to huge impact here. If you are going to rush the testing processes just to meet the deadlines, that results in a lot of missing of defects, inadequate validation of the application, potentially that is going to affect the quality and user satisfaction. So these are the 10 mistakes normally people will do while doing UAT, and what are its impact if you do, or if you commit this kind of mistake while doing UAT. So if we avoid doing these mistakes, definitely we can overcome and we can come up with a better UAT testing, and that gives a good results out of this UAT testing.